Hello and welcome back. Today we'll be talking about target behaviors and target behavior definitions more specifically. Here's an example of our treatment plan. If you notice, there is the target behavior listed, and next to it is the target behavior definition, and that will be the focus of today's training. So how to rate target behaviors? Well, the first step is to identify what behaviors to work on. And this process is occurring during our assessment period. Information that we gathered and put into our FBA summary report, all our indirect assessment information, our direct observations of going out, developing relationships with the client, and also identifying behaviors that we would like to target, and learning about them, learning how they look, learning what they are and how they hinder a person's access to the environment, and also identifying skill acquisition behaviors that we could target to replace those problem behaviors. And finally, through our EBC data collection, all the problem behaviors that are occurring, we are listing them on the ABC data collection is just going to give us a wealth of information about the target behavior so we could develop a proper definition. So how to write target behaviors? And this is important to consider when we're writing our target behaviors. There's three kind of criteria that we need to think about. And the first is that the target behavior definition is objective. It refers only to the observable characteristics of the behavior, translating any inferential terms such as expressing hostile feelings or intended to help into more observable ones. Sometimes I also hear people here use the terms lazy, depressed, unmotivated. Well, I'm going to ask the question when I hear these terms. It kind of triggers in my mind to ask the question, well, what does depressed look like for this individual? What does lazy look like? What does expressing hostile feelings look like? And that's a great way to extract that objective behavior from the person we're talking to, and also help them think more clearly about a target behavior. The second criteria is clear. It should be readable, unambiguous, so that an experienced observer could read it and readily paraphrase it accurately. So it needs to be super clear. It only has one meaning. And then finally, the last criteria is complete. And this is kind of talking about the boundaries of what is to be included as an instant of the response or behavior and what is to be excluded. So you could give non-examples as well in this section. And this will help direct the observer in all situations that are likely to occur and leave little to their judgment. So we're really leaving like those kind of questions out of their mind. Hey, this happened. Was this an instance of behavior that should be recorded or not? Those kind of questions we would want to clear up in our target definition so they do not occur. Testing our target behavior definition. So after we develop our target behavior, some things to test. And we already, in our previous training, reviewed the dead man's test, which is one test that kind of shows that it's actually a behavior. Because if a dead person could do it, it is not a behavior. But these are some other ways that we could test our target behavior definitions before we submit our treatment plan for review. Can you count the number of times that the behavior occurs in? And the answer to this should be yes, that yes, we could count how many times the behavior occurred, how long it occurs, depending on what dimension we're kind of looking to record upon. The second criteria is, will a stranger know exactly what to look for when you tell them about the target behavior you're planning to modify? And I often think if we pulled someone off the street that doesn't know this person, can they read our target behavior and target behavior definition and be able to reliably record on this? And the answer to this should be yes. And then finally, can you break the target behavior into smaller behavioral components, each of which is more specific and observable than the original target behavior? And the answer to this should be no, that is our target behavior, that we've already broken it down to its smallest components, and they're very specific and observable. So these three criteria are a great way to review definitions to make sure they are ready for implementation. So there's two ways to write a target behavior definition, a functional and a topographical. And functional is defined in the relation to their occurrence in the presence of a particular antecedent or consequence. We're going to take a look at some examples of this in one moment. It describes behavior based on the common effects on the environment. And we might have multiple behaviors that serve the same function. So a functional definition might be more appropriate in those cases. A topographical definition is kind of what is more common, I would say, in the field. It's defined based on the physical features or form of the response. So it describes how the behavior looks. It includes observable actions. So, and we're going to delve into this a bit more in the next couple slides. So example of a function-based definition, and what is a function-based definition? Again, is responses defined in relation to their occurrence in the presence of a particular antecedent and consequence. And here are some examples of what we mean. So pushing a lever could be a target behavior that we have identified for whatever reason. And this could be any behavior, and the definition would be any behavior that results in the complete depression of the level with enough force to open the door. So, we don't care how this person pushes the lever, just as long as it's with enough force to open the door. So this behavior would capture any behavior that led to that environmental effect happening. Pinching is a target behavior we have here as an example, and it's any time, and the definition is any time Flynn squeezes any part of the skin for at least 3 seconds with enough force to leave a mark. So again, we have observable, measurable, and it's any way he pinches himself. Any behavior that leads to that environmental effect on his skin would be recorded as an instance of this behavior. And then finally, we have an example, ringing doorbell, pressing a doorbell with enough force to cause the doorbell to ring. So another example, we don't care how this person pushes the doorbell or what that behavior looks like necessarily. We just care more about that the doorbell rings. So that they are some examples of function-based definition. And the advantage here is that, hey, a lot of times we care most about the function on the environment, and this would capture any behavior that falls in and has that environmental effect. So when should we use these definitions? So the function encompasses all instances of observable behavior found through observation. So exactly kind of what we just mentioned. And the function of the behavior is most relevant. That what the behavior looks like we don't really care which way they kind of what behavior they have to, as long as it leads to this result, as long as it leads to this environmental change. Topographical definitions, and again, this is the one that is most common that you are probably used to seeing, and their topographical is responses defined based on the physical features or form of the response, and plainly speaking, what the behavior actually looks like. So we have the same three examples. Lever press, using the right paw to depress the lever, could be an example of a topographical definition. Pinching, anytime Flynn uses his thumb and index finger to squeeze any part of his skin for at least 3 seconds. Another example of a topographical definition. And then finally, ringing doorbell, using the index finger to press a doorbell button. So when should we use topographical definitions as an alternative to function-based definitions? So maybe we would use these if we don't have a conclusion on the function of behavior. We're not really sure why this person is engaging in this behavior in this moment, but we want to put a data recording method into place. So we would use a topographical definition in this case, what the behavior looks like. And another example might be these behaviors that they're having do not produce a consistent effect on the environment. So it'd be hard to readily record upon them because they kind of don't always produce that effect in the environment that a functional definition would require. And then maybe other events produce similar effects on the environment, and we might consider that a behavior that occurred that really didn't, because something else, played a role in changing that environmental stimuli that wasn't the actual behavior we're interested in recording. So, another example might be, the behavior is more important than the function. That we care. If we're teaching someone about handwriting, we care more about the form of what the handwriting looks like. Sitting up straight in your chair, holding the pencil a certain way are really important features of teaching someone handwriting. So we care more about how the behavior looks rather than the effects on the environment. And a lot of times, if possible, I strive to use them both together. I will use a functional and topographical, especially when I'm writing about maladaptive behaviors. If possible, I am going to combine both of these ideas into one definition. So physical aggression, we have examples here. Physical aggression, when presented with a demand to complete laundry, dishes, or vacuuming, that's our antecedent. Billy will punch walls because in the past, and Billy will punch walls is an example of the topographical definition. They have led to the demand being removed. So we kind of have the consequence there. We have the ABC of behavior, the antecedent of behavior, and the consequence. And it really outlines exactly what we're looking to capture when this behavior occurs. When those environmental features are in place, and the behavior that we are observing. So it really is a clear cut for data recorders. And then finally, asking for a break. This is another example. When presented with a demand to complete laundry, dishes, or vacuuming, Billy will ask for a break and the demand will be removed. So another example of using both functional and topographical definitions together as a useful way to record and to outline exactly what we're looking for. So our data collection makes a lot of sense. Thank you.